Good morning, everybody. I've actually wanted to drive one of these for a very long time. I actually wanted to drive the shape before this. I actually grew up on the channel actually having a couple of Scoobies, so I know my Subarus quite well, and I actually liked the Subarus, but I actually went to an Evo guy. Now this, I've actually wanted to drive one of these for a very long time, but I don't know anyone who's had one. So Odin gave me the opportunity. He was like, we want another car, what should we get? I was like, right, well, I want to drive one of these things. I know that you guys are going to like one of these things. So they've actually bought one of these, this one exactly, for me to review to then give away to you guys. This is actually, you can actually win this at £4.99. So there's a link there using my link. But they've bought it because I wanted to review it and I said that you guys would like it. So please go and buy a ticket to make them look like I've not just bought it so I can just review it. So this is a 14-plate WRX STI. Now we can't call it an Impreza because Subaru said we're not allowed to call it an Impreza anymore. So this is a WRX STI, it's not an Impreza. So this is the newest version of the WRX STI. And I'm going to be pointing out a lot of negatives and a lot of good things about this car. I was seriously worried about driving this and having it ruin my idea of Subarus. Very, very, very pretty car. So I'm going to start off with the first negative about this car because everyone on YouTube loves to be negative. So we're going to start as a cyclist coming and we're getting away with everyone. Why is this taking so fucking long? What's all the cyclists? Fuck off, mate, honestly. So it's a very pretty car. I don't even know where we're up to. I have no idea where we're up to. So the seats are not good in my opinion. Like for some reasons, like WRX and STIs, they should be known, well they are known for their bucket seats, especially in the classics in the new age. But for some reason I was severely let down by these seats. They're not bucket seats, and for a car like this, for as rugged as it is, which we'll get onto, they're just not bolstering enough, and there's no bolster adjustment. And I think the worst thing about the car is the seats. I was expecting some lovely maybe like some Recaro buckets, but no, you get these and you can barely even see an STI logo in them, like barely, and that was always a big factor for the old seats as well. So that's the worst thing in my opinion about the car. It hasn't got the standard STI wheels on, and they have been changed, and these are super wide wheels, some sort of rotors. Most of the mods on this car are cosmetic, so we've got the Perrin spoiler divider things, we have the roof scoop, and we have lots of splitter kits around the outside. But in terms of modifications, this is a totally standard car. I believe there's some sort of Bailey's blow-off valve or a HK sequential blow-off valve on there, but other than that, the engine is totally standard. There's actually a boost gauge inside, it's running 1.3 bar, so I know it's standard. That's like the standard power for a Subaru. So this has actually got 296 horsepower. It's the exact same engine as the earlier model, but they've just increased the throttle response, and you actually have a lot of like manipulation inside the car. I think without further ado, because I could not wait to show you guys what this car was like and how it just totally changed my expectations of new cars. So this is a 14 plate. I'm just going to stress that one more time. I've always said cars after 2011 are boring, so let's jump into it. Okay, so we're going to get the negatives out of the way first of all. So I've already said about the seats. Just leans on really to the interior. It isn't the nicest place in the world. Oh, everything's a bit cheap. The radio looks like something from like a 2002 Subaru, but it's just a doubled-in radio. I feel like they've done that on purpose. Like they've not spent a load of money on like a CarPlay or an integrated screen or anything. It's just a doubled-in radio, so you can actually just pull that from the looks of it, pull it out and just put an aftermarket one in. Everyone does that in their car anyway, and if you can't do that in your car, all you do is wish that you can. So the radio is terrible, and the interior itself is just a bit cheap. For a 14-plate car that costs almost 30 grand, you would think the interior would be a little bit nicer, but it's a Subaru and they don't care about that. This is literally just a rugged rally car. Like, it's never been a comfortable car. But this one almost gets there. We have cruise control, we don't have heated seats, we've got a lot of gadgets in here, and the steering wheel's full of buttons and stuff, so it's a lot nicer place to be than the old ones. And the last thing I really can think of a negative about the car, just from now without having gone for a proper drive, it's not the angriest looking car in the world. I mean, this one has got splitter kits and it's got all these sort of cosmetic extras, and it's still not really an aggressive looking car. It's a pretty car, but it just isn't aggressive. I feel like the Subarus have never really been aggressive from the rear end. They've always had like a happy rear end, but I feel like the Blob and the Hawk are really the nicest sort of levels of looks. It's pretty, but it's not as aggressive as you would hope from an STI. McLaren here. Woo! Right, the bullshit is out the way. Let's go on to the good points that I found out already about this car. And there, trust me, is a lot of them. So let's just throw some figures out there starting off. The body stiffness of this car, or the body chassis, is 140% stiffer than its predecessor. So the last car, this is 140% stiffer in body than the last one. Crazy numbers. And it's also got much stiffer spring rates. So that just makes this car have way less body roll than the ones before it. And you can feel that when you drive in. This car is just so stiff. When I first got in this, it is the closest I've ever been to having that feeling of when I got my first Subaru back in the day. Like, I was really worried about driving this car and getting in it, and it just feeling like a new car, numb, lifeless, characterless, boring. It really is not. The steering is super heavy. It's hydraulic steering. There's no electric steering in this car, it's full hydraulic steering. Oh, the steering is just so heavy. It gives such an old school feel to the car. One thing I absolutely love as well is that they've kept the red dials. I genuinely thought I was going to get in here and they would have like LEDs, or they've changed it for this. No, they have kept the old school red STI dials. I just love how they've kept on themes. So this steering rack is, I think it's, I'm not going to throw a number out there, but it's significantly quicker than the last models as well. So as you can see, you need the tiniest amount of input, and this car just darts. It literally darts into a corner. The box is super clunky. It literally feels like my old EJ20 box. It's just, it feels, I could close my eyes and I could be in a Hawkeye or a blobeye STI. I could not believe that a 14 plate car has come out feeling this rugged. So along with that, the ratios in this car, they're super short. The box is a super short ratio. You do have a 6-speed, but between second, third and fourth, the ratios are so short. And the clutch as well, it's just everything about the car. So the clutch is heavy. It's not a soft clutch like most of the new cars come with. It's a really springy clutch. And I've had twin plate clutches in a lot of cars, and I've almost stalled this a few times. It's not necessarily heavy to drop down, but the springiness of it, it has so much character. I actually could not believe it. I was smiling all the way home in the M25 last night. I haven't put my foot down in it yet, but I've done some research and I've heard some very, very, very good things about this car, which I'm going to experience now. It's just the box. It literally feels like the old Scoobies. I was so worried about it not feeling like fun to drive and just feeling norm and boring and what most new cars are. Nope. It literally makes me feel like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old me picking up my Blob WRX, but even better because obviously this is a way more capable car than that ever will be. Going on from that, although it's a rugged old school feel, it actually has a lot of electronics in here, especially when it comes to the diff control. So you have something in this car called DCDD. I don't really know what it means either, but basically it means you've got some funky electronic shit in the diff. So down here you can either put it between auto or like manual. You're going full manual, and you have 6 different settings of fully locked or fully unlocked. The only thing is they don't really explain what it is, and I feel like you kind of need an engineering degree or just some internet to Google what it does, because it's kind of counterintuitive. So you can put the diff on full lock. Now this is where it gets complicated, so just bear with me. All right, so this car has a 50/50 symmetrical all-wheel drive, right? So it's all the time, it's 50/50. Now, if it ever loses traction, it will have a rear bias. So if it loses traction, it will send more power to the rear. And this is where it gets complicated. You would think that in full lock, it would send more power to the rear. It's the opposite. So basically, you're locking that center diff to constantly be 50/50. So even if it loses traction, if you've got the diff fully locked, it will force it to be 50/50, when really it wants to send some more power to the rear. Now, I think it's a lot better having a car sending power to the rear, because we like oversimul and understeer. So most people just either put it full unlocked, meaning it will stay rear wheel drive bias more when it loses traction, but you can bang it in auto. And then in auto, you also have 2 more settings. In auto, you can have auto minus, auto, or auto plus. They don't really explain what that is either, but I've Googled it. Auto is, it will just do itself what it thinks is the best for the car. Auto minus means it's doing what it thinks is best for the car, but not as much. And auto plus means it's doing its best for itself for the car, but it's putting a little bit more effort into doing it. It's very confusing, so I'm just going to stick it in auto. So along with the electronic for the gearbox, you actually have different settings for the throttle. I promise we're gonna actually drive the car in a minute, all right? So you have this little knob down here, and you've got S, which stands for sport, which makes sense, or you have S sharp. It's not S plus, it's S sharp or S hashtag. For some reason, Subaru went with that in an S hashtag. So, or you can press it and it goes intelligent. What does intelligent do? I have no fucking idea what intelligent does, but I know what sport does. Sport gives you about halfway throttle aggressiveness, and sport's hashtag gives you full aggressiveness. So it's basically just the sharpness of the throttle. So we're gonna keep it in sport's hashtag. Now it's 296 horsepower, so it's not the fastest thing in the world. It doesn't feel like the fastest thing in the world. But a car like this, when you've got such ratio gearboxes and a very punchy turbo, mid-range is awesome. The steering is just so responsive, and so is the throttle. I hate to be that guy coming on and off and making so many little adjustments, but I feel like I'm going to be slipping traction, and I'm just not. Okay, so there we saw that rear-wheel drive bias. I've heard that these cars don't really sound Subaru-esque, and I've heard that they have ditched the unequal length headers. Now I got in this, and the first thing I noticed was how Subaru-esque it sounded. The previous owner says he believes it hasn't got any exhaust mods. Looking at the tips, it definitely has, but looking underneath, it's still got a 2-inch. But I feel like something has changed from the headers, because this is very rumbly, and I've heard a lot of people say that they're not usually, but this sounds just like a Hawk STI. It's a 2.5, so it's the same cylinder size as the ones in the Hawk. Apparently Auto Minus is the most fun thing to go in, so. Because the rev limit comes up so fast. I can't believe how fast the rev limiter comes up, because the gears are just so short. The annoying thing is that you think that you're somewhat near the limit of the car and you're just not. Like, there is no way I could ever drive near the limit of this car. So this car's probably just driving me at the minute, to be fair. It's just get in it, have a bit of fun, and we'll try and save your life when you try and have too much fun. Like, that's what this car's all about. It is literally a rally bred animal, and it is still that today. We are peaking at 1.3 bar, so it's a standard one, and I know that Subaru engines aren't renowned for the most reliable things in the world, so you can't really be pushing too much power through a Subaru engine. I can't really say I've had much conversations with people about these who've been modifying them and what they can happily do, but I feel like this with just like an extra 40 or 50 brake would be amazing, because right now it's just feeling a little bit underpowered for the capability of the car. I can feel the capability of the car, I just wish I had a little bit more boost just to, you know, just to push it along a little bit more. But it's a total standard engine, and I get why. And it's not slow. Alex from Car Throttle actually reviewed this car, and he actually said that if someone said it was 400 horsepower, he would believe it. So that's kind of an indication of how fast this car feels. But I just can't believe how much it sounds and feels like the old Scoobies. Honestly, it really, really, really surprised me. The clutch is super grabby, the sound is exactly the same. But Odin, what geezers, they literally spoke to me and was like, what were your audience like, you know? And I was like, mate, one of these, like, seriously, and I want to drive one. And huge shout out to them, mate. Honestly, you can actually win this car. If you win this car, please give me a message if you want it sold quickly. Sometimes I get into a car, it's got one purpose, and I know exactly what to say, because it just gives you a feeling straight out the box, and you don't need to piss around trying to find it. That's what this car was like. Would I own this car? It's very rare that I actually would own a car that I review. I would actually own one of these. Like, I'm actually not joking. I would seriously own one of these. I don't know if it's a car that I'd like own for the rest of my life, but I would definitely like to own this for like a period of time and see what it's like modified. So once again, just for in the video, this car, you can actually win this exact car for $4.99 using my link. It'll be on the screen now. So head over, buy a ticket. He said they actually asked me what I and you guys want to see in the channel, and I said this. So head over, buy a ticket. I would buy a load, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to. So someone buy it for me and then I'll buy it off you for a few grand. Thanks for watching, everyone. Here is the beautiful WRX STI. It's not an Impreza because we're not allowed to be calling one. But thanks for watching. I'm going to go home before I break the car or kill myself.